Today, we're going to take a journey back in time to Ephesus, a city of pure marble and myth that was, for a long time, the absolute envy of the ancient world. It's an incredible story, really, about what we can build, its legendary beginnings, and the slow, kind of sad decline that actually has some big lessons for us even today. Let's get into it. First off, why are we still so fascinated by these ruins? Well, this number is a pretty big clue. Just in 2024, more than 2.5 million people came to walk these ancient streets. That makes Ephesus the single most visited archaeological site in all of Turkey. So what's the big deal? What's drawing these huge crowds?
Well, it's this. See, Ephesus isn't just a pile of scattered rocks, it's one of those rare places where you can actually genuinely feel the past around you. It's widely considered one of the most complete classical cities on the entire planet, which gives us this amazing, immersive window into what the Roman world was really like.
At its absolute peak, Ephesus was a powerhouse. I mean, this was the capital of the Roman province of Asia, a super important port city connecting east and west. Just try to picture it. A bustling city with over 200,000 people, where pretty much all the main avenues and buildings were made from shimmering white marble. It was a true metropolis.
But, before it was this grand Roman capital, before it was a city of marble, Ephesus was just an idea. It was an idea born from myth and prophecy, and just like so many great ancient cities, its founding story is every bit as captivating as its actual history.
And what's really interesting is that Ephesus has two competing origin stories. The most famous one is about a Greek prince, Androclos, who was told by the oracle at Delphi that a fish and a boar would show him where to build a city. And, well, the story goes that one day, while his men were cooking, a fish jumped out of the fire, lit a bush, and scared a wild boar out of hiding. Androclos saw his sign and founded the city right on that spot. But there's another, much older legend that says the city was actually founded by the legendary Amazons, a tribe of powerful, fighting women.
Okay, so moving from the myths to the facts, this timeline kind of gives us the whole story in a nutshell. People have been living here for a crazy long time. We're talking settlements going all the way back to 6000 BCE. The city, we know and recognize, really got started with Greek colonists around 1050 BCE. It hit its golden age after becoming a Roman capital in 129 BCE, and then it began that long, slow fade around the 7th century CE.
All right, so let's do this. Let's take a walk through Ephesus at its absolute peak, that glorious Roman era. For a minute, forget about the ruins. I want you to picture towering marble buildings, streets crowded with people, and a level of sophistication that was right up there with Rome itself. Now, Ephesus didn't just happen by accident. It was designed, meticulously planned on what's called a grid plan, or izgara plana in Turkish. This was a revolutionary concept from a visionary named Hippodamos of Miletus. It meant that every single street intersected at a perfect right angle. This created this incredibly orderly, logical, and really advanced city layout that basically became the blueprint for other Roman cities.
And right at the heart of this perfect grid was the Metropolis, the Marble Road. This was the city's main artery, a huge avenue that stretched all the way from the library to the theater. Can you imagine that? Walking on giant slabs of pure marble every single day, with columns and shops and statues all around you. That was just daily life in Ephesus.
At one end of that amazing road, you'd find a true temple of knowledge, the Library of Celsus. And get this, it housed an estimated 12,000 scrolls. That made it the third largest library in the entire Roman world. Just an incredible testament to how wealthy and how smart this city was.
And at the other end, the Great Theater. And when I say great, I mean huge. This thing could hold 25,000 spectators. That is larger than many modern arenas. And it wasn't just for plays, This was the center of public life. It hosted everything from civic readings and gladiator fights to the fiery sermons of St. Paul himself.
So, what was life like for the rich folks in the city? Well, let's take a peek inside the Library, the Terrace Houses. These places were unbelievably modern. They had central heating systems running under the floors, gorgeous, detailed mosaics, colorful frescoes on the walls, and even private marble bathrooms with running water. These were the luxury condos of the ancient world for sure.
But the real crown jewel of Ephesus, the building that made it famous across the entire known world, was the Temple of Artemis. This was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. It was the first massive temple ever built completely out of marble. And today, all that's left is a single solitary column standing in a swampy field. It's such a powerful symbol of how even the greatest things can just vanish.
And that, of course, brings us to the final chapter. How does a city so powerful, so rich, so brilliantly designed just fall apart? The answer wasn't an army, it wasn't some huge earthquake, it was something much slower and way more relentless.
Here's the most important thing to understand. Ephesus was a port city. Its whole economy, its very existence, was tied to the Aegean Sea. But the nearby river, the Mendres, was constantly carrying silt and dumping it into the harbor. Over hundreds of years, that deep, busy port was slowly, but surely, choked with mud. The coastline moved further and further away, until eventually the city's lifeline to the world was just cut.
And that's the final tragic irony of it all. The ruins of this great maritime city now sit miles inland. The very same river that made the plains around it fertile and helped it grow. Well, that river ultimately sealed its fate, turning a world-class harbor into nothing but fields.
So we're left with this question, right? The story of Ephesus is this powerful reminder that even the most amazing things we build are vulnerable to the slow, steady forces of nature. And you know, in an age where our own coastal cities are facing rising sea levels, the fate of this marble metropolis feels like a pretty humbling lesson. A lesson that the biggest threat isn't always some big, sudden disaster, but just the patient, unstoppable march of time.